dreams. We're going to talk about dreams. We're going to talk about aspirations. We're going to talk about those things you wanted to do in 2020. Because of the pandemic and because of all the things that have occurred, they have been held up. But guess what? In 2021, things are going to happen. Things are going to be great. And we believe that Chantel and I, we are so excited about what's about to happen to you. So what we did was we brought some sisters together today so that you can also ask questions, but all of them have stories, and their stories are of triumph, are of despite the pandemic, they have been able to continue to thrive, to continue to triumph, continue to do all the things and reach all the goals they were still had them do in 2020. They still did it. And so we brought them all together just for you and to encourage you to be encouraged in terms of what's troubling you. Okay, so I'm going to ask them, I'm going to call upon each of them, and I'm going to let them not only introduce themselves, but share with you a little bit about themselves and the things that they're doing in their area. Now, because we are reaching other states and other areas, I'm going to also ask for them to tell where they're from. Okay, so that they can be able to share with you what they're doing also in their area. Okay, so we have Elder Topaz Ingram Thornton on. I'm going to ask her to share about herself.
All right, well, welcome and thank you all for having me and these esteemed panelists. So I am grateful to be a part of what you all are doing. My name is Topaz Ingram Thornton. I am currently living in Fort Worth, Texas. I've been raised in Texas all of my life. My background is education. I am a 24-year educator. I started out as a teacher and now I'm an assistant principal, but I also serve as an elder in my local assembly where I teach women's small groups. Also, I have my personal ministry, which is called Mirror on the Wall Ministry, and it's a ministry of empowerment and discipleship for those who are seeking a deeper relationship with Christ. And so I'm excited. God has definitely lit a fire under me during this pandemic. And so I'm just excited to share about all that he's doing, not only in my life, but also to hear what he's doing in the lives of others.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And we can't wait to hear you and what you have to bring to the table, Elder Topaz. Yes. Okay.
I am ready.
I have another person, a longtime friend of mine, Reverend.
Can't wait.
We're going to ask that you mute yourselves as you come on, okay? Thank you. All right, we have another friend. Well, I have another friend I've known forever, Reverend LaChrista Brown. Can you share with the audience about yourself?
Absolutely. First, I want to say thank you to Chantel and Charlene for having me on this platform. I'm grateful to be a panelist along with these awesome women. Again, my name is Reverend LaChrista Brown. I am a native New Yorker. I grew up on Long Island. I live in Roosevelt, and I am a proud wife of 21 years of my darling husband, Reverend Curtis Brown. My background is in the legal profession. I actually graduated from Hofstra School of Law, and I work in appeals for the county attorney's office. But that's my career. My path is preaching the word of God. I am an ordained reverend in the Lord's church, and I am preaching to encourage, to uplift all. But if you would say, if I would have a specialty, it would be for women, young women, women of all ages, actually, to share my experience with low self-esteem, depression, with low self-image. The Lord has allowed me to use my testimony as a platform to be able to be a blessing to other people. I also thank God for the ministry that my husband and I are within currently, but the Lord is propelling us to higher heights in Him, to start something new. This pandemic has definitely been an eye opener for us as we both actually experienced COVID-19, had deaths in the family, but not only experienced to other people personally right here in our homes, in our own lives. And we realized that God didn't spare us from that for a reason, but there is purpose. He spared us for a reason. So I'm excited to share more as the show goes on. Once again, thank you. And I'm just excited to be here. And I last but not least would like to say that I am a proud mother. I have 2 daughters and 1 son. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Awesome. We're excited. All right. So now we have Arnaya Martin Davis.
My cousin Anya.
We're so
Hey, y'all. Hey.
to have her. Arnaya, come on and share with the audience about yourself.
Hi, and thank you guys for having me, for asking me to even be a part of this. I'm always so honored when someone wants to hear my story and what I'm doing. So, cousin, thank you so much for asking me.
You are welcome.
I'm going over to Bonnie Carey Spillway right now. So I apologize. I was supposed to leave a little bit earlier so I could be at my destination in time for the show, but my apologies. I am Anya Martin Davis. I'm Chantel's cousin. I am the CEO of Lady CEO. I'm throughout the show, I'm guessing I'll tell you guys what Lady CEO stands for, what have you. But I do brand management and business management as well. Under that umbrella, I also have a t-shirt business, t-shirt boutique, and it's named Miss Things Boutique, which is expression wear. You have on. I also have, I sell wine. It's called A Lady and Her Wine. I am co-host of Theories and Thoughts podcast, which is an extension of Swagger Magazine and Media. I have a mentor group. It is named Girl Group, and I also have I host persona shoots, and we'll get more into that as this goes on. So I do persona shoots, and now I am also directing shoots and small commercials. So that's me in a nutshell for the most part.
Awesome. Thank you. I think I pronounced your name wrong, and I apologize. It's pronounced Anya, because when I heard
Yes,
Anya.
and it's okay. And I don't think I told y'all where I'm from. I reside in Dallas. I've been in Dallas for going on 22 years, but I am from New Orleans.
Okay. Thank you. All right, our next panelist, her name is Chelsea Bell Houston. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. Thank you. Welcome, Chelsea.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, perfect. So my name is Chelsea. I am, I guess I would say I'm originally from New York, born and raised in New York. I moved to South Carolina. I currently reside in South Carolina. I may be in and out of my mask, just as a disclaimer, because my house was not exempt from the COVID pandemic. Both of my daughters actually were diagnosed with COVID. So I'm in my car so that I can take off my mask because of, folks that are in the house. Anyway, I guess my profession would be, I'm in finance. I currently work in finance. Between myself and my kids, we have a couple different businesses that we are running. My children just launched their web-based business of Amazing Bell Candles. So they have a candle business. I actually have my own event decor business called Elegant Affairs. I started back in 2014-ish, maybe, 2012, 2014, I started a not-for-profit called Diva Sisterhood. And it's basically women's organization where we go out and we kind of give back to the community in different ways, and we serve in different capacities within the community, just basically meeting the need of whatever may be asked of us in that capacity. Excited to be on. Thanks for inviting me. to be on the call. As I mentioned, or maybe it was mentioned, I am a wife, a mother of two. I think my story is probably unique because I was a teenage mother before I became a wife. And so my life took lots of turns, and I think we'll dive into that. But I believe the biggest, I guess, communication that I would want to share with this group and this platform is determination, persistence, and just the grace of God. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. And last but not least, Reverend Pastor Cynthia Mack Williams. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, but I feel like it was kind of a setup to put me last after all of these wonderful women of God. That was a real setup. I thought you had love for me, but I am honored. I am truly honored and humbled to be here with you, Chantel, and you, Sherilyn. Truly, what Sherilyn is a friend from way back when. I'm talking way back. I'm originally from New York. I left New York by way of the military. I went into the military and I'm now retired Army. And I pastor alongside my husband. I've been married for 34 years. And in the 34 years of marriage, we have altogether 4 children and 9 grandchildren. And I'm truly excited about that. Outside of pastoring with my husband, the Lord has allowed me to birth out a ministry called Pumps, and it stands for Pushing Up My Precious Sister. And with Pumps is an elevation, and it gives you a confidence and a boldness to walk it out. And so my motto is to take you from flat lines to front lines. And doing it with a boldness and a confidence, knowing that you were made to shine, because we use the thing that you are a diamond. And one of the things for sure, and I know we'll go deeper into it as we move forward, but my pain used to distract me, but now it deploys me. And so while we have been in this pandemic has pushed me beyond my pain and into deeper depths of my purpose. So, I know a lot of people have been diagnosed with the COVID-19, and a lot of people are saying this is just throw the whole year away. But I don't want to throw this year away, because this is the year that revealed exactly who I am, what I am to continue to do. And so I'm just excited about what's coming forth. So thank you again for allowing me this opportunity. I know this is going to be awesome, because you women of God have already done got me all sparked up and just ready to see what the rest is going to reveal. So God bless you.
Awesome.
Amen. That was great.
We're excited. And
Yes, we
we're
are.
happy that you're all here. Chantel, would you like to set up some house rules before we get started?
I just asked if you have any background noise, go on mute like I am, because I have my kids in the background. Audience members, keep your cameras off. You are able to hear us, ask questions, but we just only want panelists showing. And we are live on Facebook, and we're going to be live on YouTube also under What's Troubling You, a discussion with Chantel and Shirlene. And I will share it to my LinkedIn page and Twitter. So I think that's about it.
Awesome. So we're going to start off with some questions. And I know our audience will have some questions as well, and we're going to incorporate those in our discussion. So the first question I have for Pastor Williams, I'm going to ask that you kind of define with us, what are dreams to you? What does that mean to you? Dreams.
It's funny that question is even asked, because I believe that we all have dreams that the Lord has given us. It was a dream, and it was a desire for our purpose in life. And to me, a dream is what you were born to do. A dream is your whole purpose for being in the earth. A dream is what is it that the world needs to see or hear from you, and it goes way beyond, your pain. It really thrusts you into, you can see a thing, but until you have a language for that thing, it will not come to full fruition and manifestation. So I've had many dreams in my life, and they were not fulfilled because I could only see it, but I didn't have a voice for it.
Mhm. Great, awesome. When I pulled up a definition of this, it said that dreams were cherished aspirations or ideals. It said that it was fantasies about something, and then it talked about gifts, which I thought was real odd.
Mhm.
Um, Elder Topaz, can you expound with us about gifts in terms of its relation to dreams?
Well, in regards to dreams, I see them as they're like mental, like movies and highlight reels for me. And
Mhm.
so I feel like whatever, God has put in you, whatever purpose that is, then he projects that through our dreams. So it's like a movie or a highlight reel. And sometimes when we wake up, we want to see more, and so it encourages us to see more. And so I believe that our gifts, which are really designed to serve others, are connected to those dreams. And a lot of times we feel like at some point initially we may think that those dreams are just about us. And of course, at some point, you will receive and reap a harvest because you were obedient and you walked into it. But your gifts are tied to that dream, whether it be your investment in it. Of course, you're going to have people who come alongside you. So you have to understand that also your dreams are connected to other people. They're connected to other endeavors. They're connected to people who are going to come along and mentor you. So a lot of times we see it from a microscopic level, but your dreams are expansive. And your gifts, of course, I'll just use myself as an example. One of my gifts is shepherding and leadership. And so what I've learned through my dreams is that they are connected to me being able to shepherd and lead others. So when you think about your dreams, you do connect them to your gifts, which is also connected to serving others and those who are going to come alongside you and help you manifest it.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Chelsea, you mentioned when you introduced yourself about being a young mother. And, I'm quite sure there are others out there who are going to listen to this now or they're going to listen to it later. And not only were they caught up in this pandemic, but they might have had an outlook for themselves and something happened and they ended up becoming a young mother. How can you still dream in the midst of that?
So specifically for me, I was a mother at 18. I had my oldest daughter 5 days after my 18th birthday. So right now I'm 36 and I have an 18-year-old. So just to answer your question, I guess for me, I always had aspirations to go off to college and go off to school and, have that college experience where you're on campus and, kind of enjoying your friends and that type of thing. But then having a child, as a child, kind of switched my whole outlook on things. So you have, family, friends, different people kind of telling you, your life is over, things won't be, it's going to be much harder than what it would have been, had you taken a different path. So just having that piece of it, it kind of skewed my dreams from a perspective of, wanting to go off to college and that type of thing. So my thought process at that point was, my dreams kind of changed. It was more of a, let's prove these folks wrong that you still can be successful even though you had this hiccup. This hiccup doesn't mean, this issue doesn't mean that your life is over. Will it be tougher? Yes. Will it be a lot harder to get things done? Yep. Will you have to work much harder than others? Yes, to accomplish things. So my fuel, and I guess I still had that dream in the back of my head to do different things because I still went on to complete college and things of that nature. But my dreams kind of shifted. I say, when I speak about it, I normally say, I stopped living for myself and I started living for my children. So from that perspective, I think dreams are still, was still there, but it was just, I had a different outlook on calling them dreams. It was more so, me trying to prove a point to others that, your life isn't over at that point. But then once, I got past that and became the definition of successful in certain areas, I started to dream to want to have different things or want to do different things and go different places and travel and things of that nature. So hopefully that answered your question.
Okay. I think someone has.
Hi,
Can you
audience.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you mute your computer or your phone, audience members?
Oh, I think they did. They did.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you
All
for
right.
sharing, Chelsea. I was too a teenage mom, so I understand that struggle. It didn't mean my life was over. It just made my life greater because I had to struggle harder to get what I wanted. So it taught me tenacity and perseverance. So yes, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yep.
I could say I was a teenage mom too.
Anaya, you talked about, am I saying it right? Get still, Anaya? I said it wrong again, right?
It's okay.
Pronounce it for me one more time.
Anya.
Anya. I don't know why I keep saying Anaya. Okay. Anya, let me ask you this, because you have a lot of streams running out of you, a lot of streams. How do you manage how does the dream manifest from all the streams that you have?
Okay, so part of it is I a lot of things that I'm doing, I never dreamed that I would be doing, to be honest with you. I tell people all the time, there's a quote and it says, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew what type of woman I wanted to be. And in that, I knew what the woman that I wanted to look like, what she would be doing. She will be a woman of faith. She will be an upstanding woman. She'll be a woman that other women looked at. She would be a leader. My mother always told me that I was going to be a great woman one day. How can you not be a great woman when you have a person constantly telling you that you're going to be a great woman one day? So with everything that I'm doing, how it manifests is I just keep walking. I honestly walk through it, walk in it. Two things that I didn't bring. I am a journalist as well, and I do speaking. So how things come about is people honestly see things in me, and I just walk through it. I'm dyslexic, and I was just a brand ambassador for a magazine, and then the marketing person asked me what I like to write. Well, I used to write in middle school, but I didn't think I was that good because I was dyslexic. And sometimes if you know anything with dyslexia, you miss words and different things. But when I started writing, my editor was like, Anya, this is good. I knew something was wrong. Well, she knew I had some type of deficiency, but that people pushing me to walk through in my gifts, in my dreams, in the things that I'm doing. So when one thing led to another, especially with journalism, it went to, I was a manager and editor of a magazine, to me having my own platform. God gave me Lady CEO, but I thought it was going to be its own platform. But God told me, go to Swag Her. Like when Swag Her came about, when I was introduced to that, it was almost like, you latch on to her. You're not going to make your own thing, but this is what you're going to do. So I just go with that, you know, and I do brand management. That was another thing. It was pretty much someone asked me, someone seen something in me, and I went with it. I prayed on it, of course, but I went with it. So everything that I've done, that I do, is really a manifestation of someone asking me to do it. I have a bachelor's degree in education and educational studies. So it helps me, especially with brand management, because I'm able to teach. I'm a natural teacher. So I'm able to go from there. But it was just the obedience of God. When I went to God with it, God's like, yes, walk in it. So now I'm walking in it. I'm walking through it. So that's where all the streams came from. I wouldn't have never, if you told me when I was a little girl that I would be doing everything that I'm doing, I would have told you no way. Because only thing I just wanted to get out of New Orleans. And that's the honest to God truth. I just wanted to get out of New Orleans. I left New Orleans. I was supposed to go to Grambling. I went to DeVry, and that's how I ended up in Texas. But it was really just being obedient to what God was doing, and be obedient to, you know, someone asking you to do something, and honestly going to Christ with it. In all honesty, going to Christ with it and saying, okay, they asked me to do this. Am I going to do this? And I am a true believer, and I am the result of God giving you everything that you need when he asks you to do something that you didn't know that you was prepared for.
Awesome. Awesome.
Amen.
Awesome.
We have a question on Facebook, and anyone can answer it. Is how do we find these people to come alongside of us? And that's from Letitia Brooks Smith. So who wants to answer that?
I can answer that because I am a person that walked on the side of someone else. And now we have a podcast and we're doing so many great things. Be obedient to God's ear. Don't, you know, if God is placing something in your face, don't run from it, and don't think that you have to do exactly. Because here's what happens. We feel like God gives us a vision, and he does. He definitely gives us a vision, because God gave me a vision of a publication. He will give you that vision, but that vision ain't for you. It's for somebody else. So you have to be obedient with that. And I've even asked somebody, can you be obedient with what God has put into you? He told you this is what you're going to be doing, but it's not your vision. It's for someone else. Can you honestly walk with somebody in that? So how going back to the question, if it's you that needs somebody to walk towards you, walk with you, I would say, number one, pray about it. Definitely pray about it, because you want the right person that's walking towards you, walking with you. And I didn't know the editor of Swagger from The Man on the Moon, but we have gotten close. I actually manage her now. Like, I manage her now. This is crazy. And she asked me because she's seen that in me. So don't despise, oh, I don't know that person. Build those relationships, build that rapport, and get to know them and say, you know what? Okay, let me see where this can go. A lot of times, if we don't know a person or we've never seen, we don't want to fool with them. But God is saying, this is a person that I brought into your life to help you in a certain aspect. So pay attention to what God is showing you and be obedient to it. If you're supposed to walk on the side of someone, just be obedient again to walking on the side of them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amen.
LaChrista, how do you think your dreams and your gifts will impact your surrounding and your community and your world?
Well, first of all, I feel like God has given me something, and just piggybacking off what my sisters have just shared, that it's not just for me, because I don't feel that, what's the purpose of having a gift if you don't share it with other people? What's the purpose of having something just for you and you're going to bury it and no one else can be blessed by it except for you? One of my themes and mantras of life is, I was blessed to be a blessing. So what God placed inside of me is not just for me and my immediate household. I already know is to share with other people and to impact. But I know that first and foremost, that is doing something in my own house, because I can see how my daughter, who watches me and mimics me is being blessed by what God has placed in me that can help her. The thing that God placed in me, and as far as with my story, I know it's going to impact others because of just being vocal and not being afraid to share what I've been through, and then to see the response. At first, I was just like hesitant in sharing my story and sharing what I've experienced because of embarrassment, because people tend to look at you and size you up and says, well, she looks a certain way. She looks okay. She dresses the part. She knows how to speak. She went to whatever institution, so she should be okay. Not knowing that that same person could be so to speak, living on the outside, but dying on the inside. And that's my story. When I was able to get the strength and to walk away from fear of what other people thought about me, and the shame and the embarrassment of, oh, if I share my story of depression, worrying about how people would look at me after that. Once I pushed past that, and I was able, the first time I remember I had a speaking engagement, and it was a lot of young people there, and the Lord broke me down to share with how I used to hate myself. And I really mean, I looked at myself and couldn't stand my skin. I couldn't stand how full my lips were. I thought my nose was too big. I was in the 5th grade journaling about, I hate my thighs. Why can't I, my hair was long. And a lot of people in my class at the time, hair was short. Why can't my hair look like, I wanted to be who I wasn't. And when God allowed me to release that off of me and share with someone my story, how I went through all these different things, and all these young people came up to me pretty much crying, saying, thank you, because I'm going through the same thing. And I didn't realize, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that what I thought was my negative, was my downfall, would be my uprising, because this, I can talk about depression. I can talk about low self-esteem in my own house, in the White House, in the church house, in the supermarket, wherever I go, and somebody's going to listen and be blessed by it. What I thought was ugly, God has shown me you are fearfully and wonderfully made, no matter what size you are, no matter what you haven't attained yet. You're great. And every day he's showing me. Even with that, I went to law school, graduated from law school, and I was the top of my class in high school, and I did excellent in college. And I thought I was a failure because I haven't passed the bar exam yet. God says, I'm not done with you yet, girl. You have so much going on. Listen, I showed you that dream, and it just hasn't manifested yet. But what I spoke into your life, whatever I said, I can't lie. You just wait on it. And he showed me that it's coming. You graduated from Roosevelt High School, a school where if you like take a poll in the surrounding communities, people would say they're not going anywhere. You graduated from Roosevelt. I went from Roosevelt High School to New York University on a full ride, from New York University to Hofstra University School of Law. God said, you worried about a test? I brought you through all of that when you had a guidance counselor in the school that says you'll never make it. Look at that and see where I brought you from, and say, okay, you are going to make it, and you're going to be able to be a blessing to somebody else who might be right there, but just need that encouragement. So I know that my stories compacted together. My stories about my depression and low self-esteem, my low self-worth and low self-image. My stories about coming from an impoverished neighborhood, but actually just thriving, where people say, you won't make it around those other folks. You came from a low income Black community, where I excelled, graduating from New York University with a 3.6 overall GPA. I thank God, and not because of me, because of the God that's within me that pushed me to go to where I've been. So I know my story has a story, and it's going to be a blessing to other people, just because of when I open up my mouth, he speaks for me. And whatever I share, and I'm not embarrassed to share it anymore. And I thank God, just because of the results, what I've seen so far, and how people have been impacted. My story is that God didn't deliver me from drugs and alcohol. He delivered me from me.
Yeah.
He gave me my exodus from me, from my negative thoughts, from my negative feelings about myself. And when he delivered me from me, he allowed me to be a blessing to my community and all those around me.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
You know,
May I?
yes, go ahead.
I was gonna say, may I add to that? I am so much like you. I dealt with depression, anxiety, all of that, and that was my biggest thing, my biggest fear. Who wants to hear what I got to say?
Yeah.
Even this year, I created. I had a conference. It was called "I'm Married Now What." I'm single. I was like, who's gonna listen? God, who coming to this conference? Who coming? I had some on my Zoom that wanted to hear what my panelists had to say. So I am right there with you. And that is so real because God has already to just walk in it and do it and move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Man,
Awesome.
that's a
You know,
Amen.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what LaChrista said. I too, and you're right. People don't have to give up when things happen in their lives, and or you don't meet what society says you should meet on a time schedule. It doesn't always happen. I took that NCE exam a couple times and didn't pass. And knowing that I had 30 years of experience in counseling, well, at the time it was 20 plus years of counseling, and I have been in the business all those years and did well in grad school. Well, I went to grad school twice. I have 2 master's degrees, and couldn't pass this test. And I too felt that I was measured by an exam that said what my worth was, and it wasn't. And with that being said, I kept going. I just said, no, I'm not going to let it define me. I'm not going to let it define me. And I too, but I eventually, 2 years ago, I passed, thank God. And so now, but I believe, and I think you said it already, it's all about timing, where you're supposed to be, because here I was, had a dream that it was going to happen at 45, and it happened at 54. And to let you know, at 54 you don't have to stop, and you don't have to be over, and when others say why you keep going to school, is because that's what I'm called to do. And you shouldn't have to feel that way, or feel like you can't make it, or I'm too old, or I've had my time. No, 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 no. So whether it happened at 22 for you, LaChrista, the timing is going to be perfect. When it does happen, he'll be able to propel you into the places that you need to go that you may not have gone. And that's what I realized too. I had my LPC before, I might not have gone to the places I needed to go now, and I may not have the humility that I have now, because I know what it took for me to get to be who I am just for today. And so I appreciate your transparency in sharing that, because I know there are several people, and I've talked to people in the past about when they fail, how do you get back up? How do you allow yourself to get to the dreams and still pursue after failing? So I appreciate your transparency, and I appreciate you too, Anya. I got it right this time. I appreciate you too, Anya, for sharing. Chantel, you wanted to say something?
Yeah.
I just want to thank LaChrista again also, because I failed my marital and family therapy exam, but I didn't get discouraged. Well, I did get a little discouraged, but it wasn't as much as I thought I would. But I did retake it, and I'm waiting on the test results. So praying that I pass. But I thank you, because there are many people like us and that have excelled in school only to fail the test, and it does make you feel down and like,
Yes, it does.
how can this happen? I was great in school. I had a 3.7 GPA, and now I fail the exam. So I just thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if I know you have other questions that you wanted to, but this is a good vein to kind of tap into when we talk about timing. The timing, God's timing is everything in our lives. And when you said, 54, 50, well, I'm 57. And for a long time, I was always thinking that I was out of time. Okay, I didn't think that I thought God was finished with the time. But I didn't even start developing until I turned 50. And at 50, when I started to realize and recognize who I even was, why was I even created? How do these stories that I have, like my sister Chelsea, I believe I'm saying your name right. I too was a teenage mom. I was a teenage mom and I thought I was washed up because I always measured myself against everyone else. I thought everybody else was going to college. They were graduating and they were going to college and they were doing all of that. And I was ashamed. I was ashamed of who I was because that wasn't my story. And I wanted my story to look like everybody else's. And it wasn't until I was like 50 that God said, hey, pump your brakes. Your story will never look like theirs. I literally had to confess. I think I confessed to some of my classmates. I said, hey, you know what? When I was coming up and I didn't know who I was a little envious of you because you all always got good grades and you did everything else. I didn't live my life like that. I lived my life on hard knocks. I was the one that was, cutting class. I was the one that was, going behind with all of my posse. And I was doing everything while everybody was getting these A's and they were being called to get these awards and everything for being so great. I was the one that, they were saying, if you keep this up, we're going to go tell your mother. Well, my mother worked in the school. Like, come on, give me a break. It was crazy, but my story was what continued to develop me. And I didn't realize that this was happening until I turned 50. So not only did he take the teenage pregnancy and make that a chapter, but then some other chapters came along the way. Well, hey, I didn't even find out about that I was a product of an adoption that went bad until I turned 50. I was thrust into identification at that time. That's when it was revealed to me some things about my father, who I thought all along he was my adopted dad, and then I found out he was my real dad. So here I am trying to unpack some bags at 50 while these chapters are still being written. And I'm worrying about a story that looked like somebody else's. I said, listen, I ain't even got time for your story, because this right here just took me into that thing right there. My sister talked about, talking about depression. You talk about depression. I didn't even realize I was depressed from that. But then to add insult to injury with everything else, then you're going to tell me that my only son is killed while I'm 7 months pregnant. Come on, God, come on. Do we have to keep going through this? Is this another chapter that has to be written in this book of Hard Knocks so that I can be authentic? Come on, God, I could think of other ways that we could tell this story. I could think of other ways that, I could feel like, I'm anointed. I could think of other ways, but we got to do it like this, And we found out he died on December 16th of 1998. And then we buried him on December 24th. Come on, somebody, look at your calendar. That's Christmas Eve. And why? Because that was another chapter that was being written of the book, of the story of what God was continuing to reveal about myself. So depression, I get it. I didn't even know I was depressed until I went to see a therapist. Because, we women, and we always show up for everybody else. We always show up, with mask on and trying to empower everybody. And he said, wait a minute, while you're trying to empower everybody else, I need you to be in power so that you can empower somebody else and not just be looking like you got another organization of empowering women and it looks good, but when are you going to deal with yourself? When are you going to deal with the stuff that you got going on the inside of you? When are you going to let that soul, you talk about a healing, when are you going to allow your soul to be healed from the inside out and not just look good from the outside? Come on, somebody. I was so broken, but it was in those broken places. And it's still to this day, I'm 57 and I'm still, that's why I said that, I hate to be the bearer of what some people may say bad news, but the pandemic was a pusher for me. It was a pusher to help me to continue to identify who he created me to be.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
that place,
Yeah.
not of isolation,
Mm-mm.
okay? But it was in that place of the pandemic while we were being quarantined that God continued to qualify who I am and why I was created on this earth. So I thank God for you sisters that just shared those stories, because that bubbled up. You made my baby leap everywhere, because I'm telling you, if it had not been for those places of depression, of teenage pregnancy, okay, of losing my only son, when Christmas Eve came around and we're putting up trees and everything, I'm sitting at my dining room table with my former pastor and with the undertaker, trying to pick out what color casket I'm gonna put my baby, my 17-year-old son in. I said, come on, God, my only son. And then he began to reveal to me, he said, I gave you my only son. And from that point forward, I began to realize that, you know what? This is just part of the journey, and I could either be bitter or I can be better. And I keep choosing to show up better, because it's not about me, but these stories help empower other people. So I'm just excited. I didn't mean to take up so much time,
No.
but I'm just
No,
excited
that was good.
about what God is doing in the lives of his people, and those of us who are no longer ashamed, but those of us who are empowered because we're in power by the one who has given us power, the dunamis ousias power. And we just walk boldly and take up our cross and keep following him. God bless you. I'm telling you, this just what a mighty God we serve.
I
That was a good
appreciate-
sermon.
I
Glory to
appreciate
God.
you saying
Jesus.
that, because
Lord.
the reality is a lot
Whew.
of times, and what people, and that's why we have this, because what people are going through now, not knowing what to do,
Yes.
you know, and you just summed up the story, because that was the purpose of Chantel and I doing this at the end of the year, is to be able to help people to see where they need to launch into and not be afraid of it, you know, at any age. And I think that's another great part about, you know, being able to know that you can either do it at 17 or you could do it at 57. It doesn't matter, you know, that wherever you are, that's where you can begin. You know, even when the obstacles come, even when the roadblocks come, you can still do this. And I appreciate you so much. You know, Elder Topaz was like, yes. So I know she wants to say something. So share something, Elder Topaz. But before
Oh no,
she says something,
I was just really thankful that y'all shared that, because when we talk about, you know, obstacles and challenges, now I've been divorced about 19 years. So I've been a single parent struggling, raising my kids. And my oldest is, of course, she's 22. My middle is 21 and my youngest is 19. So it was the pandemic that actually activated what was inside of me. And so for years, you know, prior to that, I struggled, you know, not having the support that I needed from a ex-husband that was 20 minutes away, but didn't want to drive 20 minutes to see his own kids, you know, having to struggle financially, and even going through that with self-esteem and self-worth. You know, you're wondering, you know, how am I going to get out of this? You know, who's going to want me with these 3 little kids that I have to raise? You know, what's going to happen? How am I going to, you know, make it from one day to the next? And so I definitely identify. That's why I was over here like, yes, yes, yes. I identify with that, because it's a challenge when you have something inside of you and a dream, but you got to wait. You know, you have to wait. And sometimes you have to prioritize. And so I was frustrated in those seasons, because I was like, well, my first priority is to raise my kids and make sure my own household, you know, is together. My first ministry was my household. And so I just continued to stay before the Lord. He kept giving me, visions and dreams. Of course, you write them down, you record them, you have these things, you have these binders and journals of things that he's given you. But what do you do when you've been waiting, to be unleashed? And it's about that timing, and that's so critical. And that was such a great point for me, because I can identify with the timing of God in this pandemic. It was like I came out of a cave. I was literally like, it was like a rebirth for me. It was like I can say it was like a resurrection for me. And so, I can identify with that, in your mind, mentally going through those things like, Lord, when is my time? When is my time? If we're going to keep it real, when is my time, Lord? I see everybody else, succeeding and thriving and following their dreams. God, when is it going to be my time? And so having to do that, and then also, you have people around you, but they're not necessarily with you. So even going through that, you see people who they like you, you're likable, you're popular, but people are not necessarily investing, in you as well. So, even going before the Lord about that, God, when are you going to send me my tribe? So I thank God for his timing, because even in the midst of this pandemic, like Pastor said, it was like an unleashing. I mean, if I tell you provision, it just started falling. Everything just started falling in place. People started calling me. People started giving me ideas. People said, hey, I'm with you. I'm gonna help you write the book. I mean, it was like, it was no struggle, because it was about the timing of God. If you just be obedient, even to the timing of God, then everything will begin to fall in line according to his will and his timing and his precepts and what he wants you to do. And so I just thank you guys for even talking about that, because that timing thing, that thing is key. But also, Anya said something earlier about even coming alongside people and supporting their vision. And so a lot of times, some people don't want to do that because they're stuck on wanting to do their own thing. But I am a firm believer, and I can testify, when you come along somebody else and help them to birth what they're doing, because God has given you that gift to help somebody else, that he will definitely help you with yours. And so all that you guys have said, it has blessed me. And it, like Pastor said, it just kind of stirred up something in me. I really want to run right now, but I can't. But it just reminds me of those places, transparently speaking, when I wanted it to be my time. I wanted it to be a certain, time. I wanted to, surround myself around certain people, but, God's timing and his protection, his covering, is key in this time. So even in this pandemic, definitely stay in a place, in a posture of prayer, because he will definitely put those things, he'll lay it out before you. He will.
And if I could just add one thing to that for folks on the call or listening, or who will listen later. I was raised in a religious, spiritual background. My uncle was a pastor, or is a pastor. I was brought up in his home and everything. So sometimes, you can hear these things. It's easy to hear. It's easy to say, pray and do, but you have to get things for yourself. One of my favorite scriptures is Galatians 6:9. Don't be weary in well doing, for in due season. See, you have to get into your word to, understand that. So for people who are, may not be there yet, right? Because, if this is going to be presented to everybody, right, we have to understand that everybody's going to be on different levels. I love this. This is great. I said, go on and run. We'll be here when you get back. But this is this is really good. So, but I just want to let people know who may not be, as mature in their spiritual walk yet. You have to get into your word. And that is one of my most favorite scriptures of all, Galatians 6:9. It may not be here now, but it's coming. You keep going in the right direction. It's coming.
Awesome. Thank you. We
So-
have questions.
Right.
I
We
want
have-
those people to get some questions. Yes.
All right, so on Facebook, there's not a question, but Martina Van Norton said, looking good, ladies. Talking to me and Charlene. And then she tells y'all to keep on talking and honor your voices. I think that was from Miss LaCrista. And then she said, value is not assessed by a test, but by the voice taking us through the test, which is true. And Letitia Brooks Smith said, how do we handle distractions while pursuing our dreams? Which is a good question. So who wants to answer that one?
How do we handle distractions
While
when
pursuing our dreams.
pursuing
Dreams.
our dreams? Yeah. How do we handle those distractions?
I'll just speak from personal experience, because that's been another thing, distractions that have what I thought may have caused delay, but it may have been more so just helping me to be more mature in my pursuit. But I have accountability people that I can talk just real and transparent with. I got people who will tarry with me, you know, people who will listen and won't judge. And so I think one thing that you should do when you know you are someone who has a gift, who has an anointing, who has purpose, and you know that the enemy fights that. And so, and you know that he brings things in your pathway to come against that, whether that is self-inflicted, of course, because there's some things that I did, you know, and then there was also some things that I believe were definitely demonic in nature. But I have to have accountability people around me. So people that will pray with me, that's a different group of people. I have some people who will just listen to me talk, will talk and help me to vent, because you have to find the right people to vent to. You can't vent to people who don't have your heart, who don't have your spirit. You can't vent to people who will then call somebody and say, hey girl, I need you to pray for so-and-so. You know, they're going through, you know. And so sometimes people do that in the spirit of gossip and not necessarily in the spirit of covering you and really wanting to help you move forward. So that's one thing I can say is having some accountability people around you who are really invested in all of you, not just your purpose and where you're going, but also where you are currently, because you're going to need people to help you walk through that as well.
Let me ask you this before we go to the next question.
Mhm.
What if you are the support person for everybody, right? And you support everybody, but there's nobody to support you?
That's a good question.
I'm gonna say that there is somebody to support you. Now, if you have not discovered who that is, I think that's something to pray about. But every person has somebody, whether you want to reach out to them or not. There's somebody there, because sometimes we do have people who are a support system, but we may not like what they have to say all the time. They may be a bone of contention for us. But if we really think about it, that may be the actual thing that we really need, is that person that we're really running away from. But we really need their truth. We really need their candor. We really need their teaching and their support. So I believe that every person has that someone. If you are in a place where you are still kind of wondering, I would just pray about it. But every person has at least one person.
Yeah.
If I may say something, Charlene, as far as that, I think we also have to learn, because we are sometimes categorized as like these super women that's able to do everything for everybody and be everything that everyone else needs. I think it's also important that we realize that there are times that it's okay for us to say no, or to take a break, or say not now, and to make sure that we listen to our own bodies and our own selves. And I found myself a lot of times having anxiety attacks, and I realized the triggers when I was doing too much for everyone else and I was running my own self ragged. Now, perhaps it's not a time that I can go to someone else, but it's just a time for me to be by myself, to get in my own place, to relax, meditate, and pray. My husband used to say on Saturdays, he says, honey, you get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning on your day off, and you're ripping and running, and I don't see you until the evening. And then the next day is church all day. By Monday, I'm completely depleted. By the next weekend, the same thing. And it got to the point where I used to have palpitations and my heart was racing. And I felt like I couldn't accomplish everything because I'm all over the place. And I've learned, I recently put a post up of just myself in the laying in my recliner in my room, in a quiet room by myself on a Saturday, all day doing nothing. And I used to feel guilty because I was like, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this, I have to cook this, I have to take my daughter here, I have to prepare this. I allowed myself that time to be by myself with God, just to relax and to regroup. And I was okay with that. There's a point where you have to say, okay, I have to make sure we can be there for everybody else, but what's the good of being there for everybody else when we're being torn down and we're not being refreshed and being replenished and having that time to make sure that we're healthy physically, spiritually, and mentally. The mental aspect is most important as well. A lot of people neglect taking care of ourselves. If I'm going here and I'm out of my mind doing all these things, and myself, I'm not taking, it's okay to say no or not now, later. I had to even learn that it was difficult even for my own daughter because she, mommy. And I used to feel bad if I would say no, but it's okay now. Because if I don't take the time to say no, then you'll get maybe the frustrated part of me coming out where I'm lashing out. It's okay to say no. I think it's important that we identify the distraction, to know what these distractions are, to make sure, okay, these things are coming, and to make sure we prioritize, and to make sure that to learn that it's okay to say no. Take time for ourselves to make sure that we're still on course, that we're balanced spiritually. And I think that'll help. Identification, that it is a distraction. Sometimes we don't realize that certain things are coming our way and it's distracting us to throw us off course. We got to make sure we know, okay, I recognize what this is. Let me get into focus. Let me do what I have to do for me to pull it in and to deal in time and in step.
Yeah. And those moments we call therapeutic, we call those self-care moments. And we have to take time to do that, to just rejuvenate ourselves. So you're absolutely right. I love it. We still have we have questions in the chat.
we have one in the chat.
Okay.
Janjira says, learning to live in a place where you trust yourself and others to heal. What does that look like?
And that's for anybody.
Anybody can answer that.
Mm-hmm. You want to read it again?
I'm gonna. Oh.
You want to read it again?
I was gonna say. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Learning to live in a place where you trust yourself and others to heal. What does that look like? Okay.
I believe in having a therapist and having Jesus. That's me. My therapist is self-care. That's self-care for me. I actually have a shirt in my in my boutique that says, if it has to do with my mental, it won't get done today. Trusting yourself is a process. So many times we feel like things happen overnight. Trusting ourselves and trusting other people is a process.
Mm-hmm.
Healing is a process. It didn't happen overnight, so it won't happen overnight. But be intentional in your healing. Be intentional in the way that you walk, in the way that you stand. So it goes back to the distractions as well, because you may be walking and you know what, I'm healed, and then you get to that place where it's something that you used to do, or something that would bring you back to that unhealing space. Be alert to that. And even if you mess up, come right back. You know what? That's not where I need to be. Let me go back over here. I say be intentional about your healing and your growth. The only person that you have control of is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only person. So with that, let me make sure I'm answering the question right. Living in a place where you trust yourself and others to heal. Yeah. The only person healing that you are in control of, that you know for a fact is happening, is your own. That's it. It's your own. You have no control over other people's healing and when they're going to heal and how they're going to heal. What you can do, though, is give them to Christ. once we give things to Christ and we let him have it, like seriously, authentically give them to Christ, he make things happen. And however way, you just learn how to handle them. There are situations, there's people in my life that honestly in therapy I've had to face. And it was a situation of, okay, they're not going to change, but I have to change the way that I deal with them and how I approach them and how I handle the situation. So God may not ever change them and they may never get healed. However, you are whole, you are healed, you are worthy, and you walk in that. And no matter what people say about you, oh, she think this now and da da da, and about what they have to say, you know who your God is and you have a relationship with him and you keep walking in your healing. Because trust me, when you ask God for healing, he will heal you. I am a prime example. But first is, as everyone says, identification. You have to identify that there's an issue.
Yeah. If I could just jump in there real quick, that was a good, you just passed me the mic and that was good right there. What you just said was so good because, but the thing about it is there's limitations on self. So if you start trusting yourself, we might be in trouble because self has limitations and self is always coming to sabotage self because self can't go but so far. Self caps out. So, and this is, I think this is what gets us thrown off so many times is because just like you said, I'm gonna call you CEO because I don't want to jack your name up real bad, but we have to allow the Holy Spirit on the inside, dwelling on the inside of us. That's our truth. Because see, self has a truth of its own. Mm-hmm. See, the truth of self will remind you of who you're not, who you'll never be. This is why you going through this because you messed up. It'll keep reminding you of your flaws. But see, what the Holy Spirit will do was take your flaws and cause you to bling like the diamond that you were created to be, because he will remind you of himself. And see, that's why it has to be greater than yourself that shows up. Because see, every time I would show up, I would always remind myself, you know what, she didn't love you. That's why she left you. Okay, because I was a product of an adoption. So rejection kicked in. So depression would try to sabotage the truth of what God or who God said that I was. And so I had to always go back and face the truth and not look in the mirror and look at self, because every time I would look in the mirror and look at self, I saw everything that was wrong with me. I never saw what was right, and I could not walk in righteousness of who I was created to be because all of the flaws always sabotaged me. Now, because I walk in truth, and every time I hear the lie, because remember, there's two voices that's always going to be speaking. I always liken it to, I love the Flintstones, so I just dated myself all the way. You had Gazoo, and then you had the other one over there trying to tell you some things, right? So there's voices always in your head, and they're going to be trying to tell you their form of truth, right? So we have to always be concerned about what truth are we listening to, because the distraction is going to come. Either it's going to come for development or it's going to come for discouragement. You have to identify, why is the distraction here? You got to say, who sent you? Who brought you here? Why are you here? A lot of times people would come, and because of when I walked in insecurities, not knowing who I was always suspect about everybody. I walked in paranoia about who sent you. And then you find out that God sent them, but because of your insecurities and your low self-esteem and everything that I was walking in at that time, I couldn't embrace the support, as my sister said earlier about your support system. Support's gonna come, but you got to make sure that you don't sabotage the support because of your insecurities. And now you're thinking somebody's trying to take your position, and God is trying to position you. And so you just abort what God had sent to you, and you sabotage your own growth and development because you mismanage who was sending. Was it God or was it the enemy? We like to blame a lot of things on the enemy, but I think we give him way too much credit because some things are allowed by God. And we have to start understanding that and stop thinking that everything is the devil. No, God has a permission. He permitted something. Nothing happens off of that he didn't already know about. So some things, they were sent to me so that I could confront the things that were hindering me and so that I could grow in development and not in discouragement. So it's really good to know the difference between the voice. That's why he said, my sheep know my voice. And a stranger they shall not follow. You got to first be able to identify the voice. Who's speaking? Is it your own self-sabotaging truth? Or is it the truth and nothing but the truth that God is sending your way? And you got to stand on that. That's how we become authentic, is when we stand on the word, because the word never changes. But ourself, we fickle. Man, we like this today. Tomorrow we a whole nother way, depending on how the sun shines. If it's cloudy outside, we say, oh my God, I'm so tired. Oh my God. That's when you got to bring your own sunshine. You got to know that, you got to be brighter than ever when it's on a cloudy day. Don't conform to the day. Continue to remind yourself that this is the day that the Lord has made. I don't want to be preachy about it, but I want to, it was one of those things that I had to rest in myself so that I didn't keep sabotaging what God was doing.
Amen. Amen.
Well,
And Janjura wants to know, well, she said thank you, and she wants to know what's Pastor Cynthia's last name.
Yeah, I IM'd her. I sent her a message by herself.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. You're on the right road. I love how we're just flowing, because my next question for you guys, because just what you just said, everything you just said brings us back to the fact that during this pandemic, they were stopped. People who were dreamers, people who were enthusiasts, people who were believers, okay, were knocked off their feet because something hit the earth, not the state, the earth, that took people out that we loved and we believed in, took people right out, okay? Position people lost their jobs, people lost their homes, people are still in a crunch. And so one of the questions I had was, what do you suggest to others that would be clear for their gifts or their dreams due to this pandemic? Because the pandemic and other barriers, because you just talked about it now in terms of self, being a barrier, okay? Or just kind of having that whole battle with our own thoughts. And we're not talking about mental instability either, because I know that's not what you're talking about. What you're talking about is the battle that we all go through, that whether it's right or whether it's wrong, or should I do this or should not do that, okay? How do you still pursue and still press forward even when all of this is going on? That's the heart of our questioning today. How do you move forward and all of this around us is just going on? How do we do this?
I'll
If I may,
say,
go ahead, Chelsea.
go ahead. So for me, I'll use, we literally started a business in the middle of a pandemic. I have, like I said, I have teenage daughters. I have an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old. So one of the things for them, as being teenagers, they were excited to get out to work and, first jobs here and there, and they were excited about that. And then all of a sudden the pandemic happened and can't go to work, things like that. And they're saying, we want to make money. We want to, earn money so that we can, buy this or do, these lavish things that they had in mind. And then I had to say to them, and their thought process was, but everything's closed, so we can't do anything. We can't make money. There's nothing we can do. We can't get a job, can't go to work. And I said, listen, you can't think about all the things that you can't do. Now is your time to get creative. start thinking about things. What do you like? What do you like to do? What are your interests? And then, we started going through a whole just brainstorming session to come up with different ideas. And as we started going through a brainstorming session to come up with different ideas, it was like, how many of these things can we do home based, right? So you want to make, your goal is to make money, right? You guys just want to make money to buy whatever teenagers want to buy, right? And I said, are there other avenues that you can get this done? Write it down, start writing things down, just jotting out your ideas, and let's, see where we go from there. And that's how we came up with an entire candle business that we're running from home to making candles. But to answer the question, I would say it's more, use this time wisely. We've always heard use the time wisely. Everybody is so busy in their daily hustle and bustle. You never really had time to do the things that you always, air quotes, said you wanted to do, or what your dreams were. So I would say use this time wisely. Take out those notepads and different things, that you wrote down, a year ago or 2 years ago, or however. Start, jotting those things down, figuring out what items did I write down 2 years ago that I said that I wanted to do, that now that I have this time where I'm home, whatever reason, that I can turn that into something. So I would probably say, use this time wisely and kind of brainstorm and figure out how to make things happen to generate, if it's revenue or whatever, if it's just, if you want to be, creative juices, whatever your thing is, use this time wisely to figure out, can I make this happen? So that would be my 2 cents.
Awesome. Thank you. LaCrista?
Well, being one who I can say we suffered a lot of loss. My pastor actually passed back in April, on April 16th. My mother's brother, my mother was one of 13. Her brother that is closest to her, she 2 years older than she is. I just did the graveside burial for him last week. He passed. He found out he had COVID on the day after Thanksgiving, and he passed away 5 days later at home. Just the other night, on Thursday, we had a meeting, and right after the meeting, my mother called me back immediately and said that her best friend passed of COVID, who she's known from being a little girl in Alabama, and so many other people that we were close to. And I started to question, I'm like, God, what are you doing? And what are you saying in the midst of all of this grief and hurt? And what my husband and I, after we got our strength back, we said, well, either we are going to lay here and die too, or we're going to do something about it. Mm-hmm. And we, being that my pastor had passed, we have not been back in our sanctuary yet. We pulled together our resources. We started to do our research. We consecrated our home, and we transformed our living room into our sanctuary, where every Sunday, this is where our church has church. At that point, our ministry, our church did not have anything to figure. Our pastor was ill at the time, passed. 2 reverends, myself and my husband, was sick, so nothing was happening. And I said, it's bigger than us. We have members that still need to be fed and uplifted and encouraged. What do we do now that we have our strength back? Do we just still lay here and die too? Or do we do something? So we started doing our research, because we just didn't want it to be another Facebook Live, but we wanted to not only to appeal to the members of our local assembly, but also to pull in others, to bring in more souls, to encourage those outside of the Free Will Baptist Church in Freeport. And we worked on it aggressively to now it's like a whole production here on Saturdays and Sundays with the setup to make sure that it looks right, because we want to make sure that God looks good on everything that we do. And also, what helped me is my late pastor used to say this all the time. He would say, don't dwell on what you lost, but focus on what you have left. And God has left us with so many people and resources and ideas and dreams and visions that didn't die with him. that we could pursue and push. So that's what I held on to, even in now in this we lost a lot. I lost my uncle, I lost my pastor, my mom lost her best friend, and lost so many other people. But what do we have left that we can use to help us to live? And I know it is my desire to live, to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the, that's my desire. So what we started to do was to make sure that not only, we took care of home, we made sure that we did what we needed to do. We coupled up with other organizations to make sure that seniors in the community that didn't have food, to deliver food, even in the midst of a pandemic. We coupled up with organizations to get turkeys out to those who didn't have cars to get out. We did whatever we could, resources that were available that we could do to help the community to be a blessing. So the question is that I feel that I believe that many should just ask themselves, am I going to lay here and die too, or do I want to live? And if your choice is to live, don't you dwell on what you've lost. Because if you really sit and think about what you lost, it could take you to a place like, Lord, I lost money. I may have lost my job. I lost family members. I lost so much. Think about what God has left you with, because all is not lost. You're still breathing. All is not lost. You still have the activities of your limb. All is not lost. You're still able to pick up a phone and call somebody and say, maybe if you can help me here or point me in the direction to get help to do X, Y, and Z. All is not lost. So just aggressively and really have a real transparent moment with yourself. Do I want to die too? Or do I want to live? And if I want to live, use what is left. Don't dwell on what you lost, but use what is left.
Yeah.
If I could jump in just quickly, I wanted to kind of confirm some things that Chelsea and LaCrystal were talking about. In the pandemic, it did, and I started a podcast or a broadcast during the pandemic. And so it was something that God had given me a couple of years prior, but he had gave me the content for it, but I didn't necessarily have the resources for it until we came into the pandemic. So it allowed me to kind of take out some of those old ideas, some things I had, started tweaking it and started doing some research to really look at what platforms were thriving during the pandemic. So I would encourage anyone, number one, to research what's trending right now. So podcasting, broadcasting is something that has been pretty much booming right now. And so it opened up an opportunity that didn't open up before the pandemic, but now I'm able to broadcast to 185 countries for free. And so this company that approached me, like I said, they basically work off of sponsorships. So that was one of the hurdles before the pandemic, was the money. I necessarily didn't have the resources. So that opened up where it wouldn't just be something that was here local, but it would be nationwide. But also researching, especially if you're going into, and I'll speak for myself, podcasting or broadcasting, start looking at the different platforms. Of course, Facebook is very popular, but now what's trending is Clubhouse. And so I came across this resource and this platform just from networking and connecting with other people who had started researching what's trending. And so, so from there, I would suggest for anyone who's wondering, how can I get this off the ground, or what can I do? Do a little research, start following or connecting with those who are doing some of the things that you desire to do, and then start working from there, seeing how your gift and what you have to offer will fit in that platform or fit in that particular resource. So I think this is a fine time to network and research and see, find the flow, the river, and jump in that flow according to your gift.
Awesome.
Amen.
What I was going to say was, because I had a question that talked about resources. So you just gave us something called Clubhouse. What's that?
So Clubhouse is actually, it's a digital space where people are creating rooms with different topics. So they have rooms that are created for business, I've been in some prophetic rooms. I've been in prayer rooms. There's rooms for relationships, and there's just different. It's an avenue that opens up and creates rooms where you can go in and you can pretty much talk about anything. It's like a live panel. It's like we would take this panel. You would open up a room on Clubhouse, and then other people are able to kind of sit in your room and listen in on your discussion. And then, of course, if they want to join the discussion, just like we would a chat room, they would have a modality where they can raise their hand and you can bring them in the room to join the conversation. So it's just another digital platform, but it creates moderators and facilitators, and just another way that you can get your message out to others for absolutely free. And so it's the latest thing that's trending. I have seen lots of pastors and leaders and business people, some influencers who are on Clubhouse. So I would just encourage anyone. I'm just going in right now, just observing. I haven't decided to open up a room just yet because I want to see what the flow is, and just to make sure I have a good handle on it. But it's just another platform to research, especially for you guys who are having panels and different discussions like this.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that was good. I wrote that down so I could go check it out.
Yeah. I have another question. And this is for anybody, how would you go about networking now? How would you go about networking now? Because it is the end of the year. Many of you had talked about connecting with different people, connecting, with other people. How would you do that now in this midst of this pandemic?
I would, if I may, I would say, also I wanted to say Clubhouse is not on Android, it's an Apple product. So if you're not an Apple user, it won't happen on your Mac, but I think the iPhone and the iPad, you can do it. So definitely Clubhouse. My co-host of my podcast loves it. She's like, you could get on there and talk to anybody. Another thing I would say is Facebook has so many groups. Join the group. Join a group and learn something out of a group, and bring your own thing. You could do a social, or you can do business. I'm in a PR group because I manage clients. I have clients that I manage. And just as when somebody say, I'm looking for anybody got a client that da da da. Yeah, I got a client that could do that. It's not the right one, Gendra. I'm sorry, I say her name wrong. That's not the right Clubhouse, because I said the same thing when I had my Android. I mean, because I have an Android and someone sent me the right one with the right picture. But hey, I may stand corrected. But as far as I knew the other day, is not the right one. Sorry, I seen her comment come up. Um, I would say look, hashtags.
Mm.
If it's something that you're interested in, hashtag and follow and talk to the people. If you want to start a podcast, I always put, podcaster. People ask me questions. People come in come in my DM and say, "Hey, I want to start a podcast. How can I do this?" I'm always open to share the things that I know. I'm actually starting to mentor someone who wants to start a platform. So, you never know who will be open to give you their knowledge. And sometimes you don't even have to. You don't have to go look very far. I joined a group called the Millionaires, the Billionaires. I've met so many women on there. Matter of fact, my nail polish came from one of the women. I mean, hashtags, join groups. Don't be afraid of your own voice, as someone said. Be honest with yourself on the things that you really want to do. And I would even say be intentional. I'm always about being intentional. I'm always say be intentional about anything that you do, and write it down. If you want to network, write it down. Be intentional about networking and write it down. So many people have events. Go to Eventbrite. People are having virtual events all the time. Go to Facebook events. It may be something that you want to learn, people that you may want to learn from, or even you may want to join in just to see what they're doing.
Mhm.
Go there too, you know. So
Thank you. That was good
Awesome.
information.
Also, I have another question. And this is for each of you. So each of you need to answer this question, okay? What if you had more time, what would you wish you had more time to do now? And this is for each of you. So each of you need to answer this. If you had more
to
time,
sleep,
what would you wish you could do? Wow.
to sleep, to sleep. I work along with everything I do. I work a full-time job and a part-time job. My part-time job actually pays for my businesses, so I don't have to get investors because I did start two businesses during the pandemic, the
Mhm.
t-shirt and the wine. I would have more time to sleep. I do make sure I have time to rest. One, I'm off from both jobs this week, but I'm gonna help out with my father while I'm here. But I am gonna find time to rest. That is so important to me. Slowing down. I'm telling y'all, I have a therapist that's self-care. I go get a massage every week that's self-care. I try my best to go to sleep at a good time and get that proper rest. I meditate and of course I pray. All of those are my self-care. I need to go back to working out because that was self-care too. So it would definitely be more time to just sit and be still
Okay.
and sleep.
Awesome.
So, so after I heard your answer, I think I was thinking about that question way too deep. But for me, I absolutely love to travel. The shirt I have on says "Travel to." It's basically a play on the word attitude, travel to, and if you Google it, just basically means grumpy from a lack of travel. If I had more time, I would probably travel. Travel is probably like my biggest therapy because it gives me an opportunity to step away from the reality and then just enjoy the moment. I personally believe God wouldn't have put all this here if He didn't want us to explore it. So I enjoyed traveling. If I had more time, I would probably travel all the time. I have 2 more years and we'll be empty nesters. And I'll only be 38. So that will be my more time. So I'll probably be traveling a lot. So that's my answer.
I just want you to know, because she didn't talk about, she has been over. Okay, I just want to add that because when she says travel, some people just think, oh, she's going to been to the Bahamas or she's been to such and such. But no, she's been everywhere. So I just want to say, and part of her business is traveling. So and she has a travel business as well. So I just wanted to say, put that little plug in there. She's been everywhere. Yeah, Pastor Cynthia.
So I don't know, Chelsea. I think I probably am gonna probably take it a little too deep. I don't, but the only thing that comes up for me, if I had a little more time, when I think about if I had a little more time, that means that I could go back in time. And for me, I think it would have been for me to heal earlier on while my children were younger.
Mm,
Because
good.
had I
That's good.
healed, if I was healed while my children were younger, I feel like I could have been a greater support system to them and a greater help, which in turn would have made me even a greater mother to them, because there were many times where I was still hurting and I wasn't healed. So some of that caused them to stumble in some places that had I been healed, they could have maybe walked through instead of stumbled to or stumbled on some things that distracted them earlier on. I just, as I heard my sister Krista said a little earlier on, that because I was hurting so bad during times where I thought I was being there for everybody. I was being there for everybody, and I was hurting so bad that I missed my children. So I thought I was doing ministry. You know, how many of us can really attest to the fact that we think we're doing ministry, but we're missing God altogether? Because I was going to church, I was doing everything that looked like the saints should do. I was going to church, I was toting my Bible, I had the scripture down. You said something, I was like, that's da 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 da, you know, and I was dragging my kids to church instead of taking my kids to church. And so they weren't able to develop their own personal relationship with God, because I was so busy trying to create a picture of what the sanctified saints look like as a family, as opposed to allowing them to develop a right relationship with the Lord, so that when they get older, they wouldn't depart from him, but they would continue to grow and develop their own personal relationships with him. So I didn't want to go that deep with it, but that was the thing that resonated with me, was if I had more time, I would have sought a therapist earlier on, while I was still young, in dealing with being a teenage mom and then coming through domestic violence. I would have gotten healed before I went on to another husband too, but that'll be talk for another session that you may have, because you got to heal first before you go and try to be a help me to someone else. But
well, we'll bring you back on that one, okay?
I think, Anya, aren't you gonna be talking about marriage on one of your podcasts? I think I saw that, huh? That would be good for your podcast.
I'm actually talking about we can have her on the podcast. We do have a couple right now, but we can talk about that. But this on Monday, I'll be talking online dating with one of my friends. That's her situation. I'm actually mentoring her in that. But yeah, that's a good thing. But she just said a whole lot by you gotta be healed before you be a helpmate. I had to learn. Look, I'm single with no kids, and I was like, Lord, why not? And he said, baby, you gotta heal. I need you to be right. So that's all I'm gonna say on that. I see Elder Sopaz got something to say.
Nah, hey, I was just gonna say to Pastor Cynthia, that part right there, because that was me, chasing ministry endeavors. And then, my kids are not necessarily getting what they need spiritually, so I definitely identify with that. And it took me a while to break that cycle, where I understood that my ministry was to my home first and not necessarily to the church. So I started saying no when I got that revelation, but I definitely can identify with that. And so, I wish I could have done some things differently in that regard. But I thank you for sharing that, because that's a real thing, especially for women in ministry. And then those who were raised by women who were in ministry, who were in church almost every day of the week. Yeah. So that's my testimony as well. But I thank God for the foundation, but I thank you for saying that. So I just want to say that part to you. But in regards to something that I wish I had more time to do, number one is work out. Before the pandemic, I was going to the track, and I had my little routine. And then when COVID hit, I was like, I'm not going to anybody's gym. I'm not about to wear a mask in the gym. That's just me personally. So I need to carve out time to just do something in my home, in my room, or find something online I'm sure I could do to substitute for not walking around the track right now. Also with self-care, I wanted to go back to that too. There's something that I've been doing here since the pandemic, I've been doing more of, which is called soaking, spiritual soaking. And so, and it's really been very helpful. It's a form of meditation, and you just find a quiet place, you get still, you play worship music, and you invite the presence of God to come in and allow him to speak to you, however long it takes for him to speak and move. And so I've been doing a lot of soaking, and it's been very, very therapeutic. It's been very helpful. It's been my form of self-care, but also travel. So now that I know that, Chelsea, you say you're a travel agent. And so that was one thing that I definitely want to do after the pandemic, is definitely travel more and live a little bit more. So those are
Awesome.
my things.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Krista?
Traveling is definitely one. We will be empty nesters. My daughter is in the 12th grade and she is graduating in June. So that's definitely something that my husband said that we actually both agreed that we want to do. Actually, even out of the country, but we just want to get in something and just drive, and just talk and just get back to, because a lot of times we used to talk about how it used to be. I've been married for 21 years. I was married young. I was 23 years old when I got married, and we've been married, thank God, for 21 years. And he talked about how when we were courting, we would talk for hours. But now that life has happened, you barely have time to kiss and say goodnight. He said, Christy, you do so much. You don't fall asleep, you just knock out just like that, because I'm so drained. So if I had more time, would be more family time. And I must share this, as you all are talking, my husband keeps coming down the stairs like, oh my God, this is blessing me. He's really being blessed by you ladies. And when you talked about, dragging your children, there's a song that Canton Spiritual sing, my mama drugged me to church. That's what my husband and I was doing with my daughter, because we would have morning service and second service and a third service and a midweek service and all these services, till I felt like my teenage daughter was feeling burnt out from church. I'm a preacher, her dad is a preacher, and I didn't realize, and I'm going to say this in honesty, I didn't realize what we were doing to her. We were forcing God down her throat as opposed to allowing her to develop in her own way. Because I don't know how many 16 and 17-year-olds want to go to 3 church services or 4 on a Sunday. And there were times when she would share, Mommy, can we not go? Can we stay home? And because of my position and because of my dedication to the church, no, we have to go. And then it came to a point when she was of age to stay home alone. She's 17. We would leave her in the house, not knowing what that left room for, of leaving a teenage girl home alone while we were at 2 and 3 services, and then wondering why there's some things that we didn't realize was developing and that she was going through that we missed because we weren't there. We were in church. So I thank God, and I'm saved. I love God, but I also realized that my family is important. So if I had more time, and I thank God for this pandemic, because it allowed me to work from home. My daughter is remote learning. My husband was working from home, and we had that family time to kind of make up for lost time. And in that, we learned a lot. My husband was like, who is she? We missed a lot because we were in church, and we missed our first ministry in dealing with home. And now, more than I am in therapy. I'm going to just leave it there. And it's okay. But I bless God for this time and the time that He has created for us to heal and to make up for lost time and to kind of repair and to build and to restructure and to learn. We've learned so much about our 17-year-old in the past 8 months than we did in her 17 years of life, because we had family time of being home. So I just thank God for the time. But if I had more time, it would be to even get any more family time with my family, and also to write more, because my book should have been published. My book should have been, I should have been on my trilogy. I should have been on my 3rd book by now. So it'd be to have more time to write, to share my story, and to impart what's in me into others.
Okay, there are a couple of comments in the chat I'm gonna read real quick. Anya Janjura wants to know what that Clubhouse app look like. on Apple because she's having her sister look it up for her. And also,
I can,
go ahead.
I have if she just send me a message,
Okay.
ARNYATM Davis, I'll have Fancy send it to me and
Okay.
I'll send it to her.
Okay. And then Miss Patience Williams says, so many young girls need to hear that. I needed to hear that a long time ago in my life, Pastor Cynthia. So she's the message that you shared earlier, where I wanted to run around the room, but was trying to keep my composure. And Janjira also said, we have friends that have lost their capacity to dream. How do you start dreaming again? Anybody want to answer that? How do you start dreaming again once you've lost your ability? And that's my 8-year-old.
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm not on the panel, but I want to say this, that I think you start dreaming again by being surrounded by people who are yet still dreamers, who have not lost their ability to dream. That's why we have this panel, because all the people you've heard speak on the panel are all yet dreamers. I mean, it's funny, our time is almost up. And I was saying to Chantel that this just went by so fast. I can't believe almost 2 hours we've talked, and we haven't even conquered some of the surface things I wanted to talk about. We had some more stuff I wanted to talk about, but I think it's just really, Janjura, to be able to still to be around people who are yet still dreamers, who have ideas, who have thoughts, people who are yet still go-getters. No matter what, you can always see them. They're doing something. You know, you're not sure what they're doing. And it's funny because when I hear them all talk about, when I ask what would you do if you had time, you know, they always talk about yet still doing something, whether it was the past, they could have did something forward, or doing something now and doing it forward. And so that's what I would suggest to you, is to be around people who are dreaming. And dreamers, and let me say this about dreamers, dreamers are always talking about doing something. You either see them doing something or you hear about them doing something, or they're speaking about it. So just be attentive and listen, you know, and you'll see them. I like the fact that Anya talked about different outlets on Facebook. Other social media has different outlets that you can be a part of, that you can join to learn, you know, about what other things are going on. You know, Chantel and I last week were in a coaching session, which unlocked a new deal. I mean, I'm a therapist by trade, but I just, and I, you know, we do coaching, you know, she and I both do coaching, but not to look at on the level that we learned about it last week, right?
It's
And
a whole
so,
different, yeah.
exactly, just a whole nother level. And, you know, I love marriages, I love couples, I love couples therapy, and not realizing. So I recently launched another site that talks about amazing couples. And so I say that to say, you find out all these ideas just by, and I think they were already destined for you. It's just being listened, just listening to what God has for you to do. Because I really believe that was destined for me and Chantel last week, listening to this young lady talk about her business and sharing with us. So I think it'll be awesome.
Yeah, it will. It lit a fire underneath us, and I'm happy to see where it goes. We have some other comments in the chat. Phyllis Powell, she said, as a 72-year-old single female, she can definitely relate to all that is being said, and she thanks every one of you. And Miss Tanya Herring said, amen, ladies. I thank you all so much for this panel. It has truly been a blessing to me. Each of you have poured a little bit of something into my life. And Janjura said, thank you, yes. So
And so, as my final question, my departing question, because we're almost out of time, and this is again for each of you to share with our listeners, because again, this is going to go on. It'll be on YouTube. It's on Facebook, on Instagram. I think she said it's on Instagram. And so,
it's
did I
too
say
long
that?
to be on Instagram. I'll
Oh,
put it on Twitter
it's on
and
Twitter. I'm
and
sorry.
my LinkedIn page.
And her LinkedIn page. So this message is going to continue to go on. So my final question to all of you ladies is, what is your outlook for 2021? Can you share that with us?
I can start.
Okay.
My outlook is no excuses, but execution. Stop making excuses and push forward, do what I need to do so those dreams can become a reality. And that will cover everything that I aspire to do in 2021. No excuses, execution.
We're waiting to see that book. So let me know when the book comes out, okay? Let me know when that book comes. Okay. All right. Who's next?
That's
That was good. I'll probably I'll add to that and say for me it's you know, having an attitude of gratitude, a continued attitude of gratitude, and just keep reminding myself that if you did it before, you'll do it again.
Absolutely. Chelsea, before you duck out here, can you tell the listeners where they could reach you? Because travel has come up a couple of times. How could they reach you regarding the travel?
So on Facebook, we're on Facebook, Elegant Affairs, Elegant Affairs on Facebook. If you can't find us on Facebook, Elegant Affairs, you can go Amazing Belle Candles on Facebook, Amazing Belle Candles on Instagram, www.amazingbellcandles.com. Message me any kind of way, find me, we'll respond.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, who's next?
I guess I could go.
Okay, Pastor Cynthia.
Yes. So I'm right with you, my sister, Krista. Definitely all of the planning that I did in the pandemic, 2021 is the execution. So we planned in the pandemic and we're executing in here. There's a lot of things that God had me working on in silence, but the execution and the manifestation will come on the other side in the new year. So I'm running in there with excitement. I'm running in there with expectation and just ready to reveal what was concealed in the pandemic.
Awesome. Could you, before you finish, Pastor Cynthia, could you just add to a little bit about pumps? Because I think that some women would be appreciative to be able to join in on pumps, even if they don't live in the DMV. That's how I say it, the DMV area, the Delaware, Maryland, Virginia area, but they live outside of that. How could they connect with pumps?
So Pumps is pushing up my precious sister. Currently, we have a Saturday morning virtual brunch that we do, an empowerment brunch for women. Today was our Christmas celebration one. So every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. we do a virtual brunch, and we have different topics. Sherilyn was one of our speakers during our series of mental health awareness that we were doing. So I'm on Facebook. It's Pumps, and it's Pumps with a hyphen. So it's P-U-, all the rest of it. And in parentheses is pushing up my precious sister. So I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, also as Coach Cynthia on Instagram, and then trying to work on that Twitter. I'm trying to get them all, but that Twitter is a little challenging for me. But so we're doing that, and then we'll be launching my site. We've revamped the website. It's coming in 2021. I've got a journal coming in 2021, a book coming in 2021. I'm all doing my own shoe line for pumps, because what else would you do with pumps but push out some shoes? And so, but it's from an empowerment. They'll have empowering messages to go along with each customized box. So when you get the box of pumps, you also get an empowering message to go along with it. And so there's a lot of great things going on. I am just honored to even be entrusted with any of it by God. And it is, if it wasn't for this pandemic, I probably wouldn't even be telling you all of these things that God is pushing me into execute. So I just want to say thank you. If I don't get a chance to say it as we close out, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to be with some amazing women of God. You all are amazing. And I just thank God for each and every one of you, because y'all had my baby leaping all over the place. And I appreciate you. You guys are midwives. Just know that. And you're real diamonds. And I'll be praying for everything that God has for you to execute in this new season.
Thank you.
Anya, you want to talk about Lady CEO real quick and the persona shoot? I don't know why I can't talk.
Okay,
but-
so it's okay. 2021 is year 40 for me. I'll be turning 40, so I'm like really, really excited about that. Thank you, Lord. Hallelujah.
You look great.
Um, Thank you. Lady CEO, what Lady CEO presents the persona shoot. It's again something that fell in my lap. I post a picture and people were like, I want to be a part of that. It's allowing and showing women to bring out their beauty and different things. I am model, as my cousin said, and one of the things is a lot of people don't feel like they can get in front of a camera, get made up. So my first persona shoot is actually tomorrow here in New Orleans. I have 6 women who's a part of the shoot. And what we're going to be doing is they're going to get glammed up and we're going to take a picture. Of course, COVID. I'm checking temperatures at the door. So I'm paying attention to that. But it's really to bring out what you have inside. A lot of women don't feel like they can get glammed up and wear a nice fancy dress or something like that. My cousin's a part of it. I'm really excited about that. So that's the persona shoes. And TAT, Theories and Thoughts podcast, we have something amazing about to jump off here in 2021. We're going, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but we're going television. So I'm really excited about that just as a trial. So I'm really excited about what God is about to do with that. We're taking a month off of January. So that's some things that I have going on right now. Year 40. Pushing out, embracing, pushing women. I'm also going to start a new, I'm actually about to start writing a curriculum. It's called Do It Scared. Because sometimes God give us stuff and we don't want to move. So do it scared. So that's me. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, lady with the I.CEO, on Facebook, Lady CEO LLC, on Facebook also on my page, ARNYA TM Davis. So that's me. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And I made it. I don't know if y'all noticed. I wasn't in the car anymore.
Yeah. You noticed it. Thank you.
Thank
Ellen
you.
Lopez.
Yes, ma'am. So 2021, I see that as a year of launching out into the deep. And it reminds me of the story when Jesus stepped in Simon Peter's boat and began to really show him how he can utilize something that he saw as common, something that he did every day, something that he saw maybe as just for occupation, and he transformed it into something that would catapult him into something that would make him more multidimensional, more expansive, something that would reach a little bit farther than who he was. So I see 2021 as Jesus stepping into those things that we saw as ordinary and making them extraordinary. And so I'm looking forward to that. I do have a book coming out. It's called The Tabernacle of Relationships, and it's looking at how we view relationships from the Tabernacle of Moses. So I'm very excited about that. I've taught on it before in the past. And then also, I'm just going to continue with my broadcast. Right now, I'm in a series. It's on the Impacting Leadership Network. And I'm in a series called The Disruption Dispatch My Gifts. And so it looks at different people in the Bible who God basically disrupted the ordinary, regular, everyday life and transformed them by launching them into their gift and what they were called to do all along. So that's what I'm doing. I'm on Facebook. My personal page is as Ingram Thornton, and my ministry page is Mirror on the Wall. That's on Facebook, and my personal page on Instagram is Favored Jewel. I'm on Twitter, trying to grow just a little traction with that, and I'm there as Topaz. So,
Awesome.
Thank you.
Just as we are, I want to thank everybody for. I want to thank those who were on Facebook Live, on our page. I want to thank them for coming. I want to thank the guests that came in and attended. It was so good to see everybody. And our panel, you are spectacular. I don't think we had enough time.
No, we didn't.
I hope to be able to do this again, to maybe do a check-in that we can do maybe in the middle of the year. We'll do another check-in with you all to maybe do an aftermath of the pandemic. How are we living now? That's like that. I like that title. How are we living now after the pandemic? So please know I will be reaching out to you, or again, Chantel will be reaching out again because you were phenomenal, and we kept getting great feedback. I was checking in as well on Facebook. We were getting great feedback. So I look forward to seeing you guys again in the middle of the year. Chantel, you want to take us out and off of Facebook? Ladies, I'm going to ask you to stay just for a minute when we get off of Facebook and the other social media. Chantel, you want to?
Yes, I will be ending Facebook Live right now. And it's off. So, Pastor Cynthia, can you pray us out?
Yes, ma'am. Let's look. Oh, wise and Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for just your grace and your mercy on tonight. We thank you, oh Lord God, that every seed that was sown did not fall on deaf ears. We thank you for each and every one who poured out from the depths of their soul, from their experiences, from their testings, and from their trials. We thank you right now that it gave each and every one a great testimony that people will be compelled to draw nigher to you. We thank you, Lord God, as we leave from this platform and we go back to our prospective places, oh Lord God. We will never leave from your presence. Your presence is always with us. And as we continue to travel over these highways and byways, even during this season that's remembered as Christmas, Lord God, let us not forget your son, Jesus. Hallelujah. That is truly the reason for this season. Let us all be empowered and let us, Lord, look to you for everything that you are going to do through us in the upcoming year. Now let the words of our mouths and the meditations of our heart continuously be accepted in your sight, O Lord God, our faith and our Redeemer. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.